Hail to the king, baby.
All right, so how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. Yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. We were talking about
Nice.
how it was just hot.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a
hot
hot
right
one.
now while I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Uh, so where did the name Stippo come from?
Oh man, that's a funny one.
Yeah.
I'm a first joiner on YouTube. I've been on YouTube since right around when they first made it.
I don't even.
And
When did that first come out?
I think it was 2005.
Okay.
So I made my channel in sometime in 2007. So when I made my channel, YouTube was still pretty shitty.
Yeah.
hasn't really gotten much better. But back then, choosing a username was really tough. They
Right.
didn't. I don't know how they handled it, but it was really hard to find a unique username. And any kind of username I was putting in, it kept getting rejected.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I just got so fed up that I just started mashing letters on the keyboard. And that resulted in STIPO 360. And I thought,
Nice.
You know what? There's my username. I'm gonna use that. And it didn't reject it, so I took it. And
that's a funny story to such a, I mean, I would say iconic name for the Dead Rising community for sure.
I mean, it's stuck, but people to this day keep asking me, hey, what does it mean? And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
Whatever you want it to mean. You can interpret your own way. That's pretty cool. And so how long have you been doing YouTube then? Since 2007?
Yeah, pretty much since 2007. It definitely wasn't game videos back then. It was just kind of like fooling around with friends and stuff like that. But yeah.
So when did you change it to being very Dead Rising specific?
Dead Rising specific, I would say probably 2013.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got my first modded Xbox 360, and that's when I realized that I could start doing things with Dead Rising, and I made a few videos, and I realized that it's kind of fun, and maybe it would be cool if I made it my whole shtick, and yeah, I guess the obsession kind of took over, and it went from there.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I can't even remember the first time that I saw your stuff on YouTube. It's probably been a long time ago, but you've definitely always been a name that I've known ever since I started playing Dead Rising for sure. And,
sure.
I actually started playing Dead Rising with Dead Rising 2, and I didn't actually like it that much when I first played it. Yeah, because I didn't like the timer.
Right.
At the time, there really wasn't that many zombie games, really. I mean,
no,
you had there was like Dead Rising 2 and like Resident Evil and stuff. I mean, I can't really I mean, Left 4 Dead, of course, stuff like that, but there wasn't a lot back then. It was actually a little bit after I'd played Dead Rising 2 that I got Dead Island, which I'm kind of about Dead Island the way you are about Dead Rising.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have like a huge collection of physical stuff, and like I've been trying to get a comic book that's like crazy expensive and hard to get your hands on.
Nice.
And I fell in love with that game because it's like more open world RPG nature. I eventually went back to Dead Rising 2 and actually kind of fell in love with it because I kind of got used to it. Because before I was getting so mad because I was like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do here. Like, it's open world, so I can explore, but I can't do anything because I run out of time. When I run out of time, there's nothing going on, and it just ends. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I finally it kind of snapped, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just do the story missions and not like worry so much about exploration.
Oh, sure.
And it kind of sounds like a weird way to go at it, but it's kind of the only way to play Dead Rising to a degree is because you have to like time manage your exploration.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I'd always knew about the first game, so I went back and got that and played it, and it was even more challenging because it's even more strict than 2.
That's for sure.
Like a large degree.
Yeah.
And when the first time that I beat Dead Rising on Xbox 360, I was like, okay, here's my goal. I'm just going to do main story missions and psychopath missions, and that is it. That is all I'm doing. And that's what I did. I did every single one of them, and I said to every survivor, sorry, see ya. You're all
I still do that to this day. That's still how I play it.
Yeah, I mean, if you try to do it any other way, it's just you're gonna
It's a
like
headache.
you're gonna
Yeah.
hurt somebody because it's gonna be
Oh
it's
yeah.
just like anger inducing, man. It's like
Yeah.
stress levels out the roof.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, I think as times went on, I've garnered even more and more appreciation, especially for the first game out of all of
Mhm.
them. Even though I enjoy all of them to some degree, I think the
Yeah.
first one still is probably easily the best.
Yeah.
It has a lot of things that the others are kind of missing. I think 2 did a good job at improving over the whole thing, but it still was missing
Yeah.
a couple little things that the first one did, I feel like.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
so why did you make it your mission to like preserve Dead Rising?
At the time, I was the only one really doing anything with the first Dead Rising in terms of modding and researching, and it felt like there was a void to fill.
Yeah.
I found the Dead Rising modding forum, and the reason why that forum is called Dead Rising 2 Mods is because the whole forum was dedicated to modding the second game. There wasn't even a category for the first game.
Yeah, which is
So
crazy.
when I joined that forum, I'm like, hey, I could do things with the first game, and if you give me a section on the forum, I can show you what I can do. And yeah, it kind of just took off from there. I realized that it would be cool if I continue doing something that I guess no one else is doing. And
Yeah.
nowadays people screw around with the game and stuff, and
Right.
that's fantastic. It's great to see how many people have kind of latched on to the
Mhm.
modding of the game. But
I feel like you're such a pivotal part of that too.
I appreciate it.
About
Yeah.
showing, I mean, the fact that there's so many hidden things to the original game, especially.
Oh,
Or
absolutely. Yeah.
and you're still finding things all the time. I
Still
saw, was
finding
it you
things.
did like I think I saw a video you did with Sphere Hunter,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I saw that and saw you what was it, your interview with what's it, Peter?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Peter
yeah.
joined our Discord server, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
it
that
was
was
really
fun.
cool. It was just things like that. I always liked, seeing things like that, kind of
Yeah.
giving it an insider look kind of stuff.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of think you've always been like a pretty pivotal part of that, and I think a lot of people like because I remember you being one of the first I saw doing that kind of stuff. And then I see other people start doing it, and I think you were also probably one of the earliest to like kind of dig into the history of it, of the game and stuff like that too. Because I mean, more people have done it now, especially since there hasn't been a Dead Rising in a while. But
Sure. Yeah. 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 I would agree for sure. When I started looking into the history, there was really nothing to look into.
yeah,
It was just trailers on YouTube and
like
yeah, just
wiki
study the
articles or something like that. Not a whole lot.
exactly. Yeah, the most crude written stuff on Wiki you can imagine, and yeah, yeah.
Let's see. So what are your kind of goals for the channel going forward from now? Like, are you still just digging into the, inner workings of Dead Rising? Are you trying to expand to the other games? I know you started doing a little bit more with the mods and like digging into some of the stuff in Dead Rising 2 as well over the last couple
Sure,
of
yeah.
years.
Yeah, I've said it before, but I've always treated the channel like a museum.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
and I all I care about is that there's content on the channel for people to watch years from now.
Yeah.
So I don't really have any goal for the channel. I don't really have any drive. I
Mhm.
upload when I feel like it, and
Right.
lately life has been kind of getting in the way. There's career and stuff like that
Oh yeah, for sure.
that takes priority. But yeah, I don't really have any kind of goals to drive the channel further. It's just a museum. I just
Just a
want to.
museum, like an archive for Dead
Yeah,
Rising history.
exactly. Yeah.
Is that how you're trying to kind of doing the second channel as well for a little bit more Dead Rising 2 focused stuff? It seems to be.
Yeah, exactly. It could be whatever. The second channel was just a way for me to, I guess, feel a little bit more creative. I
Yeah.
can do whatever, really, but
Not just focusing on the first game.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Do you plan on digging into the other games much, like 3 and so on?
Uh, you know, Dead Rising 2, I feel like I could dig into more, but
Mhm.
in the Dead Rising community, there's already a lot of people that dig into the second game.
Right.
And I don't want to step on anyone's toes, and I also don't feel like I can do that job any better than they can. You know, there's people
Right.
like Undead Frankie and Solid Cal and Melina, people that know Dead Rising 2 more than I can ever really know.
Right.
my brain's kind of filled with Dead Rising 1. Yeah.
Which is fair,
so yeah.
yeah.
But Dead Rising, and same goes for Dead Rising 3 and 4. There's definitely things that I would love to check out. You know, there's beta versions. There's beta versions of all these games that are super interesting. But
Oh, for sure.
I think I think I stick to Dead Rising 1 just because I know it. You know.
Right. That's fair though. I mean,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on like? I guess so. I mean, I know your thoughts pretty well on Dead Rising 1. I mean, seen your history of. I've watched all your like collection videos, stuff like that. So I mean, we know you love Dead Rising 1, and rightfully so. But like, how do you think the rest of the games compare? And you know, how would you? Like, what are your thoughts on like 2 and 3 and 4?
Well, you know, it's kind of difficult to talk about because I really love the second game, but it just it's not anything like the first game to me.
Right.
And I guess you can kind of see that in my content. You know, every now and then I'll make a Dead Rising 2 video, but it's like it just doesn't hold a candle to the first. And that trend kind of follows as the games went on. You know, the third game I wasn't too excited for, and it just didn't really do it for me. And the fourth game is kind of you know, just beating a dead horse at this point.
Do you still feel that way about Dead Rising 3? Like, have you been back to it anytime?
I've been back to it.
Yeah,
I've been back to it. I've played it a few times, and in fact, just this year I was modding Dead Rising 3,
really?
and you know, I was actually having a pretty good time with it. So I have nothing against any of the Dead Rising games. You know, like people think that I absolutely hate the franchise after one, and that's just not true. It's just
right,
it doesn't you know, hold a candle to the first game.
There's definitely a magic about the first one, more
yeah,
so than a lot of them. I think 2 kind of has its own similar magic.
It's
totally
not
quite the same as the first one. I think the first one and the second one both kind of have a distinctive magic.
Yeah,
and I kind of think that starts to go away like as you get into 3. But
I
also
think
looking
so.
back at 3, I think 3 is a little underrated in a way because it has a lot of really cool things going on. I mean, it's probably one of the earliest open world games where you can go into almost every building in the entire map.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's got like, I mean, the zombies are probably the most realistic,
the most advanced, the most realistic
AI out of the whole series. That goes even more so than 4.
Absolutely, yeah. 4 just feels stupid in comparison.
Yeah,
3 is just it just blows it out of the water.
I will have to say that I still enjoyed 4. I actually pre-ordered it. I was like super hyped for it. I played the crap out of it. I actually put a lot of time in that game, and I beat it. I had a blast. But when I did roll credits, I mean it was kind of like, okay, you know, at this point I had built up a lot more of a love for the series. I had beaten the first game.
Yeah,
I had beaten the second game off the record, 3, and so on. And by the time we got here, it's like, okay, it's such a weird thing because like killing the zombies was insanely fun.
Mm-hmm.
And as a straight up zombie game, Dead Rising 4 is absolutely perfect.
Oh yeah,
it's perfect
as a button masher, as a zombie killer. Oh yeah,
as like if it's just a straight up arcade experience, run around, kill zombies, perfection.
Oh
as a Dead Rising game, I don't think you can make it any worse.
No,
it's lacking everything. It wasn't like 3 took away the timer. It still technically exists for side missions and stuff like that, but the timer is basically gone. You could argue that fact. You know, a lot of people do, but it's like it is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas 4, I mean, it's entirely gone. There's no semblance of it at all.
Yeah. And no, 4 feels pretty foreign.
Yeah, 4 just makes no sense. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons to that because like even the people who were like a lot of the people who made Dead Rising 2 were also working on 3, and all those people were gone by the time we got to 4.
Oh yeah.
Like
absolutely.
None of the people were there, and all the people who were like the leads of the design and direction and all that, every single one of them only had game credits for like Connect games.
Yeah, Connect games. Yeah, exactly.
And I've dug into that so much with like, there's a lot of people who did the history of it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take like the fact that they completely destroyed psychopaths. They called them
maniacs,
and they had no character. Like there was a couple of them. There was like the the football mascot. They brought back the True Eye cult people, and then there was like the pumpkin head dude. And you're like, oh, these are kind of cool. It would be really cool if they had intros, outros, and specific weapons.
Yeah.
They had none of that. And then later on, the developers tried to fix a lot of things and add stuff in, and they did add specific weapons, stuff like that. But it was kind of too little, too late.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And just come on, man. Like psychopaths are like a good.
I mean, it's integral.
Of the character of Dead Rising.
Yeah, you can't do away with that. And yeah, no, there was a lot of mistakes during development, and I mean, everyone's beaten the fourth game to a pulp.
Oh yeah, I don't have no need to add to that.
No, exactly.
I've thought about covering the game on the channel like on more than one occasion and kind of defending it to a degree. But I'm like, well, there's people who've done that enough too. Like, there's just enough people out there who defended the game, who've absolutely, utterly destroyed it. And I'm just kind of like, well, I don't really think that I can bring much to that. I don't really think.
No.
I don't even know if there's a point because, like, I could defend it, I could hate on it, but at the end of the day, I think it's a good zombie game. But if you want a Dead Rising game, you literally have plenty to play before it that are suitable. I mean,
yeah.
Some would even say off the record's potentially one of the best.
Oh yeah, definitely. It gives you a little of everything.
Fantastic. So
yeah,
and it even has a sandbox mode where you can run around with no time limit too. So
exactly, there you go.
You get best of both worlds. But what do you think about the future of Dead Rising? I mean, do you think there's a possibility of another game? And do you think that there will be a remake or remaster or something of the first game? Well, I guess there's already been a remaster, so I guess a remake.
I think a remake is more likely. I think it's the safest bet for Capcom.
Yeah.
Dead Rising 5, it's known that Dead Rising 5 pretty much killed Capcom Vancouver. It's basically the reason why they shut down. That the leaked footage of Dead Rising 5 really shows the direction they were going with it. So I think now that Dead Rising, the IP is back with Capcom Japan, I think that, when they're done with Resident Evil, they're definitely going to dip their toes back into it. But I think to be safe, they're going to do a remake of the first game because it's kind of a cop-out, but it's probably the best thing you can do.
It's definitely probably the best thing you can do because, I mean, Resident Evil said, okay, let's do it. Let's change it to first person, but let's kind of make a game that is very much like the original, but in a first person in a sense, and make it new. And Resident Evil 7 went, amazing. Great game. It just, really blew it back into being Resident Evil again. And now they've had 2 and 3 remakes and 4 and blah, 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 like crazy.
Yeah.
But we even had Devil May Cry 5, which is phenomenal. That's a fantastic game. And every single time, like, I see a new Resident Evil remake or I see... Like Devil May Cry 5 was amazing. So like seeing the RE engine with like something that's fast paced or something that's third person was so cool. Yeah. And I'm like, every time I see that, or even every time I play one of those games and go back to them, I'm like, we need Dead Rising in this engine.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I can just sit here and think like taking the magic of Dead Rising and just everything about it and building it from the ground up.
Yeah.
Even if it's reimagined to a degree and like just revamped, it could be like even better. It's already so freaking good. Like, don't get me wrong, but like it could be really, really good. And you could add. I mean, I think I was literally talking to someone about it just a couple days ago, and I was like, you could make the zombies more realistic, have like more realistic, body part degradation and stuff, kind of like Resident Evil 2 remake, and like, just dismemberment. You could probably.
I mean,
even have
ragdoll physics to begin with.
Oh yeah, yeah. Or, I mean, just so many things. And that there could be a little bit more horror there. Because I also feel that Dead Rising is like... A lot of people don't think Dead Rising and think horror, per se. But I think Dead Rising 1 is the only one that genuinely has a sense of horror to it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It's kind of like half of the strategy of survival. Because, like, the whole thing... Like, it's cool that in Dead Rising 2 you can craft weapons. I love that as a thing. And, like, I wouldn't think that would be necessarily bad if... weapon crafting to a more realistic degree was something that they did in a remake for Dead Rising 1.
Yeah.
But made it extremely limited. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like you
based on reality.
You could take like, I don't know, 2 table legs and put them together or something with duct tape. Like that just makes more sense than because Frank's not a mechanic. But
no, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just think that would be really cool, you know.
Yeah, I feel that the RE engine is the successor to MT Framework. So it would only feel right to put Dead Rising on RE engine. It just looks like it's made for it, you know. It handles Resident Evil so good that yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be great.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
So what kind of games do you like to play outside of Dead Rising?
Outside of Dead Rising, you know, as the years go on, I've kind of stopped playing games as much.
Yeah.
But you know, I still play my old man games. I still play my Halo games. yeah. I play I play a lot of Halo. I play a lot of MCC. Yeah, that's something that I could still kind of get into. But you know, I have a lot of hobbies outside of games and stuff. So games are definitely a spare of the moment thing. Whenever I'm kind of messing around with stuff on computer, I'm actually messing around with Dead Rising stuff more than really anything else. So yeah, it keeps going.
Nice. So let's see. What did you think about that Dead Rising video that I made a while back that I asked you to check out? That was probably our first interaction there.
Oh, geez, when was that?
That
would have been.
It was like near the end of last year, something like that. Let me double check.
I'd have to check it out again.
I make too many videos, so I don't know. It was 9 months ago.
Oh man, I could barely remember a week ago to tell you the truth.
And what's crazy is my videos have changed so much since then. It's crazy. I have all thanks to like so many other like YouTubers and creators that I've met along the way that have just given me a lot of knowledge that have helped me out. But I'll send you the link to the video. I just sent it to you in Discord. I actually put a lot of effort into my thumbnail. Because it was kind of like an essay thing about the importance of time in Dead Rising.
Oh yeah, I've seen this. This is great.
Yeah,
yeah.
The thumbnail, like you know how it has Frank standing on the truck that is never inside the mall. I always thought that was a funny picture. But like I took another picture of Frank like holding the bat, put it on there, and then put the wrist and the servbot head, and then put the mini chainsaw in the hand. It took forever. Like that's early days of me making thumbnails, and that took me forever. So much cropping and stuff, and I'm like,
oh man, I still can't make a thumbnail to save my life.
I've gotten a lot better, but it's just taken a lot. It's really about just finding the right software to do it in. Because depending on what you're using, it can just be crazy bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been wanting to make some more Dead Rising stuff. Trying to think, because I like to kind of have that angle to it, I guess. So for that, it was like just about why time was kind of important. I mean, I talked about like the psychos and some other things like that, but I'd like to do like Dead Rising 2 next or something. And
I mean, in my opinion, the more people making content on this franchise, the more Capcom will take notice of it. So
I mean, true, good point. We definitely need that because I want more Dead Rising. It's, I mean, even the wait between like 3 and 4 was a while.
Oh yeah,
and then like
I mean, it was
2 and 3 was a while.
I guess it wasn't that long in actual years, but it definitely felt like forever.
It felt a long time, and I mean, now it's already been. How long has it been since Dead Rising 4?
Since 2016. I mean, yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been a while. Yeah, I was actually still in high school then. It's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's been a while, and I'm like, dang, still no more Dead Rising.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of Resident Evil, but no Dead Rising.
I think Dead Rising 4 really hurt Capcom.
Man, it had to, because like
it had to have.
I doubt that they made any like much profit back.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, they might have. It probably sold decent, but it
probably sold decent, but
it review bombed hardcore though, for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And it hurt the name of Capcom.
That DLC was was terrible.
Yeah.
Did you play
no
the
kidding.
DLC?
I didn't, but
Yeah,
I've seen enough of it too.
I didn't even finish it because it
Yeah.
made me so mad. Like, you took a good idea and just destroyed it. Like, even Zombie Frank could have been so cool, and then I mean, you did a whole game with no timer, and then you're like, okay, the entire thing is gonna be the most strict time limit known to
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Like, it's more strict than the first Dead Rising. It doesn't, you can't do
Yeah.
anything. If you just like trip over a barrel and it's like, no, sorry, you're not winning this time. You're like, God, man, you gotta like rush to everything. And I hated it. It was just like, I mean, it's like the base game is like too much freedom, and then DLC's like no freedom at all. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. You would think that the DLC would have added. I mean, maybe it's a bit too big, but the DLC could have added co-op.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know, that's something that Dead Rising 4 definitely lost out.
Oh yeah, for sure. There was no co-op at all except for that stupid multiplayer mode thing, and I was like, that's just for what game you just made. You made a game that was perfect for co-op, and then you made it a like weird multiplayer, whatever.
Yeah, and the multiplayer was inexcusable. It was just a pointless mode.
Yeah, it didn't make it. There was no purpose to it. No. Actually, so I played a game. Have you ever played STIP's Zombie?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I played it for the first time this year. Like, I've always known of it, but I played it for the first time this year, and the whole time I was playing it, I was like, they could have made something like this with that DLC. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Just like something just dumb and fun, but no.
Yeah, I think they took themselves a little too seriously with Dead Rising 4, which is pretty pretty weird to say because it looks like a silly game, but they definitely could have gone the STIP's Zombie route and just done a really dumb game that's a lot of fun, but no, they couldn't do that.
Yeah, it was trying to be a lot of things. I mean, and it was like it was barely even like a game. Like, I mean, it was barely even structured. They were like, okay, well, here's Frank, except he looks like he's about 25 to 30.
Yeah.
But he's really like pushing 60.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then let's have pretty much absolutely zero connection to anything prior. Let's not even think about anything that happened like after the first game at all.
Well, you can definitely see how nobody that worked on the first 3 games had anything to do with the fourth. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, not even the people who were involved with 3. Like, you don't even see any of that there either.
Exactly.
At least 3, threw Chuck Green in there and like had some callbacks and like actually made connections to like the other games a lot.
Exactly.
Actually. Yeah. Whereas 4 just it made no sense. I mean, they did a whole thing of like, Barnaby made mutant zombie things in a lab underneath the thing, and like
the story just completely loses me at that point.
Yeah, they just pulled like all this stuff, just like basically right out of their ass, just to to come up with something. It's like okay, I don't think you guys understood that. I mean, and they had the most serious story of all time. Like, that story is serious all the time.
It just didn't fit.
And then you had like Frank doing just one-liners and quips every 5 seconds to the most serious stuff ever, and everybody's just like looking at him like, bro, you know you're in a serious like Call of Duty story mode right now, right? Like, it doesn't even make any sense.
No.
But then you'd be out doing like side missions or something, and it's just nothing. Like, nothing connected. Nothing really like made any sense together.
No.
But there was an insane amount of zombies, and they were extremely fun to kill, though. I could give it that.
That's for sure. They put their zombies. Oh yeah, they put their budget into those zombies. You can tell.
Mm-hmm. There was easily the most zombies I've ever seen on screen in a video game.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Yep.
I don't even know how that game functioned properly, like with all of them, because I actually didn't have too many bugs in that game, but like there was like a lot of zombies, and I'm like, dang, this game should be chugging more than it is.
Yeah.
It was pretty impressive in the technical aspects for that kind of stuff.
It was.
But I think they just obviously didn't know what, like, Dead Rising wasn't ever about like how many zombies were on screen. I mean, it was impressive, like with the first game, like, holy crap, there's this many zombies. Yeah. And actually, I think that there's more. There's like, well, there's less zombies in Dead Rising 1 than 2, but the zombies are much more of an obstacle in the first one than the second.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Second one, you could like run by 100 zombies and not even get grabbed at all.
Yeah.
The first one, you can't walk by 4 zombies without being grabbed at least once, unless you're careful.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think I talked about that a little bit in my video, and I was like, but that was kind of like part of the strategy of getting around them and finding little shortcuts of how to avoid them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Also,
a whole lot of jumping,
lots of jumping.
Yeah, planning your paths, and
That's another thing that I love about Dead Rising 1 is all the hidden weapons.
Oh yeah,
Everywhere. There's like everywhere. What was that?
That was actually my ringtone. That is a Dead Rising 1 sound.
I don't think you can get much more of a Dead Rising fan than you, man. I'm telling you.
No, probably not. Yeah.
You have the walkie-talkie as your ringtone too?
Yeah, the transceiver. Yeah, I got it all.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, slightly afraid that that'll get me noticed in public one day. You know, someone's gonna be like, "Oh my God, are you Stippo?" But yeah,
it might happen.
It might happen, and the day it happens, I will run because I won't know how to deal with it.
I'm just gonna sprint away.
Yep.
Man, that reminds me of Otis, my least favorite character in Dead Rising.
Oh, you don't love Otis? There's so much to love about
Otis,
him.
the character. I don't love Otis, let me call you every 5 seconds and then yell at you for not answering the phone, even though I'm dying because you're freaking calling me.
Yeah, you can kind of see that Otis, the inclusion of Otis has to be the most like Japanese game developer thing I've ever seen.
Right.
No other game would handle dialogue or mission cues from an old man on a radio. You know, it's it's crazy.
And the way that they did it too, like it's
silly.
Also the crazy thing is sometimes if you don't answer the phone, you can miss out on entire cases.
Yeah, exactly. So the game will punish you.
Cases. Yeah, and you won't even know they exist. Like you won't even get a notification. You won't get like nothing. You won't even mention it a second time. Like it'll just be gone.
Yeah, exactly.
That actually happened to me in one of my playthroughs when I was making that video because I was wanting to get footage of the True Eye cult when you go to fight Sean.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, what happened? I was like, I didn't even get the notification for the mission. And then I went like researching on Google. I'm like, did a bug happen? What happened here? And somehow I just missed the entire window of time where that activates.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I guess I missed a call or something. I was like, whatever.
Yeah, Dead Rising is rough, man. It can be unfair. When I first started playing the game in 2007, I probably went a whole year of kind of just screwing around and never actually getting an ending because I didn't.
Well, that's what I did. That's what I did with Dead Rising 2 because before I hit that point where I just started doing main missions, I would just play and explore, and I just ended up doing side missions and didn't even do the story at all.
Yeah.
And then I eventually would just like quit and restart, and you always got to keep your experience or whatever. And then I would just do it again and do it again and do it again.
Yeah. It wouldn't be until a friend came over one day, I remember, and he's like, well, why don't you actually follow that little guide arrow on the top of your screen? And, you know, why don't you go to those case missions? And I was like, shit, that's a good idea. And then
I think actually my friend did a similar thing. Like he came over and I was playing that, and he said he had played it before or something like that.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, you know, you just go to blah, blah. And I'm like, shut up.
It's that easy? Really? Wow. Okay. Yeah.
But it took me a long time to fall in love with the intensity of the time limit, especially the first game. Like the first game's time limit is, people don't understand, unless you've played Dead Rising, you don't understand like how like much of a like you got a time budget hardcore. Like, and I mean it's tight. It's a tight window for everything. You can miss so much, or you can experience a lot, but it's such a tight window for everything. And I just, I'll stick to it. Screw the survivors. I don't care.
Oh yeah.
I will never 100% that game because I don't care. Because I don't care about the survivors. I mean, I know a lot of people have done it, and I'm like, I pray for your sanity, but I can't do it. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I did it once.
Half my life to do it.
Yeah, I did it once, and I'll never do it again. I've still, to this day, I've never done the 7-day survivor like infinity mode.
No,
never plan on it. Absolutely not.
No.
I
it
just
takes forever. Like it's just
no, exactly. It's just not worth it. And when I learned how to mod the game, it's like, oh my god, you can just give yourself the laser sword. You can just give yourself this and this and this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why in the world would I subject myself to
Right.
that amount of work?
But you know, I kind of like I fell in love with the time limit by just kind of being like, well, I guess it kind of just adds to the dread of the situation, and it's kind of like realistic to a degree.
It is, yeah.
With like, you know, how things are happening, the military coming in and like, you know, whatever. And like people obviously would move and not stay in the same place and so on.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I always thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it handled it pretty well. It was just it's just strict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched your video on the True Eye cult.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really liked that video because I don't know what it is. I've actually kind of thought about making a video about like, I always find these weird, like, kind of psycho personalities interesting in video games, whether it be like Sander Cohen in BioShock or, you know, the True Eye cult and like just these weird, enigmatic,
these weird side characters. Yeah.
I think the True Eye cult is probably one of the most interesting elements of any Dead Rising game, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I feel like they should have been in more like of the games. Like they should have just always been a mainstay or something. But the amount of like mystery that's in, like, because the majority of all their lore and everything is just in the first game.
Yeah.
And still to this day, because of the fact that they never really left that game outside of 4, it's just, it still adds to the mystery of like what, who, why, like.
Yeah. I appreciate that they didn't overplay them. You know, they didn't overstay their welcome. It's just, here's these really weird side characters, and you get to see them for a few hours, and then they're gone. You know,
but they are oddly like a kind of a big part of
the
game because they're there for a while as like your main enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right next to the zombies.
Yeah.
And you know, then they're gone, and then the military moves in. But it's like, for me, it's like, where did they go? You know what I mean? Like they just moved to the next town. Like,
like, exactly.
Did they have something to do with everything going down? You know what I mean? Like, they just a murder cult before as well? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, they just come out of the woodworks. Like, they were just hiding in their parents' basement until the apocalypse, and then they all just came out and got together in the theater. Like,
that's sure what it feels like. So,
I mean,
you know,
this is like, it's just the craziest thing, and for such a small little town.
Yeah, exactly. And it like almost feels
of them.
It doesn't feel like it fits in the game, and then at the same time, it feels like it fits right at home in the game. So they're super interesting for sure.
Oh yeah, they've always been one of the more interesting things about the first game.
Yeah,
and, you know, right up there with just all the super interesting psychopaths. Like just I think what the first one did really well though is that they all of them kind of have this, you know, rooted in the real world kind of thing, and they
were kind of grounded.
Yeah, and most of them aren't necessarily bad people. Like all of them, they're just kind of people who snapped for one reason or another because of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are, you know,
some of them are genuinely crazy.
Great people prior, you know. I mean, Adam, definitely like wasn't. I wouldn't think was a bad person prior. But I think he was just like, he had a lot of self-esteem issues and stuff. Then that happened, and then boom, he just became full-blown psycho clown. Then obviously you have the prisoners. You know, that's a kind of a given.
And
then like, what's the cop's
I think
name?
Joe the police. Yeah,
Joe was definitely corrupt beforehand.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. You know, but you got your Vietnam vet. You know, you got your disgruntled store manager.
Yeah.
And then the butcher guy. I don't know about the butcher guy.
I think that was the thing that kind of did it for me with Dead Rising 3 in not being that crazy about it, is that the psychopaths were just a little over the top.
Yeah.
And maybe a little is not the right word for it. They were very over the top. They
were the most over the top.
It was ridiculous.
I think it was I think they did that on purpose to be like that representative of like, because they were supposed to represent the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it was also in like, you know, like a fake California or whatever. So I guess that was part of it, because everybody in California is just extra.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were definitely a little like too far off the deep end. Like none of them were grounded, right?
No.
I mean, an absolutely insane stripper man with a giant dick flamethrower. I mean, and then you have like the female bodybuilder. I mean, she's kind of grounded, but like you don't really
Yeah.
I mean, why is she trying to kill everybody? Roid rage? I mean, I don't really
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like there was nothing there. It's like you could have been like, oh well, man, I lost that championship because the zombie apocalypse. Now I'm pissed. That would have been like better than just like roid rage. I think the best psychopath in that entire game was the first one.
Yeah.
The Asian man.
Kung Fu guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So he like worked in a supermarket, and his wife hated him, and his kids hated him, and like I think it was the most grounded like guy who snapped, who was like the most realistic, whereas the rest were just whatever. But
it almost feels like they wrote his character first, and then they're like, well, now we need other characters, so let's just do whatever.
Now we need other characters. Let's just screw it.
What do you got, guys? What do you got?
All right, we'll give each character one person. You just make something, and that's what it's going to be. Not even
no one's gonna look at it. No one's gonna review it. We're just gonna put it in.
Easily the most like. Also, almost all of them are like very sexual too. Like that was just a common thing. All of them were like they were all Joe. You know what I mean? Like they were all Joe. Like
exactly.
It was just weird, but
yeah.
I think the grossest psychopath in the entire series is the woman at the little buffet.
Yeah,
it's the grossest thing I've ever seen in anything ever. Known to man.
Yeah, that was pretty funny though. It was pretty funny.
She was definitely very representative of glutton though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But it was disgusting, and it's a disgusting boss fight too. Like the beginning when she dies, the whole fight because like you have to make her choke on her own vomit to like hurt her. I'm like, oh my god, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
Like it was the grossest thing ever, I swear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, I mentioned Dead Island before. Have you ever played Dead Island?
Oh man, I bought that game day one on 360.
I got it for I rented it from Redbox back in the early days of Redbox. And, I was at my uncle's house and I rented it, and then I was like, okay, I have to own this game, just like instantly, and it became probably one of my all-time favorite games ever. Easily, the first Dead Island is my all-time favorite zombie game. Like definitely. I said, Dead Island is my Dead Rising 1.
Yeah.
I wish I need to get into modding on that game or something. Figure out because I haven't really.
There's
that much.
There's a modding community for sure. You know, there's there's beta builds of Dead Island out there and stuff like that, and there's definitely some interesting stuff. So.
Dude, I would love to get my hands. I would love to get my hands on that version of Dead Island that was supposed to release in like 2005.
Oh, on the Xbox, the original Xbox. Yeah.
Yes, that would have been interesting because like I'm so curious as to like what the game would have been like that far back before like the insane amount of delays that it got.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't have been much of a game. It was probably a tech demo at that point.
Yeah, probably.
Just to see it, you know, in person.
Would have been interesting. Or even oh yeah, that reminds me. Have you ever seen the Land of the Dead movie?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so you watched the Dawn of the Dead remake?
Yep, every single one.
Okay, so the Dawn of the Dead remake, I remember when I watched it as a kid like a million times because that's probably one of my favorite zombie movies. Yeah. There's an ad, like one of the trailers for Land of the Dead Road to Fiddler's Green, the video game for Xbox.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, is extremely hard to get and really expensive. So
it is.
Which sucks. Yeah. But if you look at that game, it's almost like a linear Dead Island.
Really?
Like the gameplay and everything. Like it's that first person hack and slash kind of gameplay.
Yeah.
And I always thought back to that and I was like, it's crazy because like I don't think that many people even know that game exists. But it's kind of like a predecessor to Dead Island, and it came out the year that like Dead Island was originally supposed to launch.
That's true. Yeah, I never thought of it that way. Yeah.
You know, I don't. There's possibility that those two, you know, studios didn't know anything about the other, but it's kind of crazy, like because it looks so similar to what I think that Dead Island would have looked like if it would have released in 2005.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, coming pretty close to the into this thing. But you got any questions for me or any final thoughts, anything like that?
Oh, what got you into Dead Island? How'd you find it? Did you see that original hotel trailer?
I did.
Yeah.
I watched that original trailer and I was like, that's really cool. And I thought it was a really cool thing, right? But unlike everybody else, I didn't go like, okay, wow, that's cool. I can't wait for this like cinematic masterpiece of a video game to release. I wasn't that person. I was like, that's cool. And then I waited for gameplay.
Yeah.
And then the first gameplay trailer that came out, I was like, that looks badass.
Yeah.
And then that's when I rented it from Redbox and I was like, yep, we got to own this game.
Yeah.
And then I eventually got it for 360. Got the special edition, the pre-order one, even though I didn't pre-order it. I just got lucky and nobody used the DLC codes as well.
Oh yeah.
And I got Ryder White in the Bloodbath Arena from that. And,
yeah, me too.
And I played that game. I still think, don't get me wrong, I like the city of Moresby. I always felt was probably one of the weakest parts of the game, but I like the jungle and I like the prison's okay, but I think the resort was always the most well-known thing
of
the entire
best.
game, and it's easily the best. It's also, like, if you look at it, it's also, like, a good 75% of the game, too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like,
the jungle just feels like such... Well, maybe even the prison is the shortest part of the game.
Oh, yeah, the prison's, like, 2 missions, and it's over.
Exactly,
like, if you're not counting the, like, few... There's more side missions in the prison than there are main missions.
Yeah.
But like even the jungle and the city are longer than the prison, but they're still relatively short compared to Act 1 in the resort, which is like the main focus. Which always confused me as to why they decided to kind of go with all these other locations, even though I'm fine with it looking back. But it's just like, imagine if they expanded the resort just further. They just made it more. But I also
it's possible they wanted to do more, but they couldn't.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
like, it was a rush. It was like a pretty, well, not rush, but it was like a heavily delayed development game, which is kind of ironic with Dead Island 2 out now that also had a similar
even more so. Yeah.
I don't know have you played Dead Island 2 yet?
I haven't played it yet. No.
Ooh, it's fantastic. You have to play it. It's really good, really good. But yeah, I mean, I fell in love with that game because it kind of like, it hit all the elements that I wanted in a zombie game, right? So it had a little bit of horror, but it was mostly action and just slicing up zombies, and kind of felt like I was playing a, like a Dawn of the Dead video game or something like that.
Yeah.
But it also kind of had that, like the customization of Dead Rising 2 with the multiple characters of Left 4 Dead kind of mixed into one thing. Plus it had co-op, which is always a go-to for me. That's
always a bonus. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And man, I loved it. And then I went on to get Riptide. I pre-ordered day one. We had the steelbook version or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously I've played. I love the Dying Light games as well.
Yeah.
Which are fantastic. And yeah, I've just been a big fan of those games for a long time. I've been a big defender of Dead Island for many years because it's always been considered a like middling game to most.
Yeah.
Even though it reviewed relatively well, but it was never considered like just a phenomenal game. But I'm gonna be honest with you, it kind of like, I mean, name a game outside of Dying Light which wouldn't exist if there wasn't Dead Island. Name a game that's like a first person, hack and slash RPG game
in the caliber
zombies.
of exactly
that's like
in the caliber of it. Yeah.
There are none.
No.
I mean, the furthest back you could find one would be that Fiddler Green game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, nobody knows about that, so it's like, there still to this day are no other games like that other than Dead Island and Dying Light. And now we're at a point where they're actually able to compete with each other, which I find is cool. So like with Dying Light 2 and Dead Island 2, these games actually finally have competition for the first time in their existence, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And need to get more Dead Rising in there, and then there's be more competition.
Yeah, one day at a time. You never know.
Yeah, we'll see. I think. Oh man, what did you think about those Dead Rising movies?
I wasn't a fan of them.
I only watched the first one.
Yeah, I had
And I
the
didn't watch all
misfortune
of
of
it.
watching. Yeah.
I also I was gonna like watch the second one, then I just looked into it and I was like, it looks worse than the first one.
Yeah.
Well, now it's possible, but it does. And
Yeah.
it's like
It
they
was.
tried, but it wasn't. I don't know. I don't know what those were supposed to be, but they just.
Well, they didn't have a very high budget, so.
Oh god, the budget was almost non-existent. They were like
Yeah.
Crackle exclusives at
Exactly.
first. Like so,
Yeah.
yeah, the budget was way down there, and
Yeah.
but it was just weird that Capcom was like, yeah, screw it, yeah, just here, take the license to make a couple movies off of this for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like, we're riding the high of Dead Rising 3. It's okay, just do it.
Exactly.
I mean, Dead Rising 3 did pretty well, so I think it was pretty well received compared to like 4.
Yeah. I mean, it was a console seller for Microsoft,
Oh,
so yeah, definitely.
Well, hey, it was good having you on, man.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Maybe we can do it again sometime.
Sure.
You know, hope to see more content from you because you know,
Yeah,
whenever you
definitely.
get around to it and you want to. But
Oh yeah, it'll definitely
it's
happen.
always fun. I actually watched your recent like stuff on I don't know how recent they were, but your stuff on the Dead Rising 2 mods that you did recently on your second channel.
Oh yeah,
It was
yeah.
pretty cool. The like dev maps or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That was funny. But
Yeah, those are cool.
yeah, man. Yeah, it was good having you on. Thanks for
No problem,
joining me.
man.
I was like, you know what? I'm gonna message him, see if he wants to do this. And then you were like, all right, how about this weekend? And I was like, dang, that was close. I didn't think it was gonna be that soon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, always
It was
happy to talk Dead Rising. No problem.
all right, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'll talk to you later. Hope to see some new
Sure.
stuff. It was nice having you on. See you, man.
Take care, man.